What's the most ridiculous thing you could buy with your next paycheck? A nice dinner, maybe a weekend getaway. Well, when F1 drivers get paid, they're not thinking about weekend trips. They're deciding which mansion goes best with their helicopter. F1 drivers aren't just athletes. They're walking embodiments of excess, with bank accounts so massive they make Wall Street bankers look like they're on minimum wage. And today we're ranking the most outrageous purchases these speed demons have made when they're not busy turning left and right at 200 miles per hour. From impulse buying supercars like they're picking up milk at the store to dropping millions on private islands, these purchases aren't just expensive, they're absolutely mental. And the craziest part? Some of these drivers could lose $1 million and not even notice it missing. The average F1 driver makes around $10 million per season, with top earners like Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen pulling in over $40 million. But that's just their salary. Add in endorsements, and suddenly they've got more money than they know what to do with. So, what happens when you give young adrenaline junkies more cash than most small countries? Pure financial insanity. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. I've spent weeks researching the most ridiculous purchases F1 drivers have made throughout history, and I've ranked them from merely outrageous to completely unhinged. Some of these stories are so wild, you'll think I'm making them up. But I promise you, every single one is true. So, buckle up. We're about to take a high-speed tour through the most absurd examples of F1 drivers spending in history. Main content. Number 10. Daniel Ricciardo's $1.2 million Richard Mille watch collection. Starting our list at number 10 is the honey badger himself, Daniel Ricciardo, and his absolutely mental watch collection. Now, most people might splurge on a nice Rolex if they're feeling flush, maybe drop $10,000 if they're really pushing the boat out. But Daniel, he's got a collection of Richard Mille watches worth over $1.2 million. The centerpiece is his custom RM50-03 tourbillon split seconds chronograph, a watch that costs more than most people's houses at around $980,000. And get this, it weighs less than 40 grams. That's right, he's wearing a house on his wrist that weighs about the same as a few sheets of paper. But here's the kicker. Daniel wears these $1 million timepieces while racing. Imagine strapping a Ferrari to your wrist and then deliberately crashing it into walls at 200 miles per hour. That's essentially what he's doing every race weekend. When asked about it, Ricciardo just shrugged and said, "It's just a watch, mate. Just a watch that could pay off the average American's mortgage several times over. But sure, Daniel, just a watch." Number 9. Charles Leclerc's Ferrari fleet. Coming in at number 9 is Charles Leclerc's rather predictable but still outrageous Ferrari collection. When you drive for Ferrari, apparently one road-going prancing horse isn't enough. You need the whole stable. Leclerc owns a Ferrari 488 Pista, a Ferrari Roma, and the ultra-rare Ferrari Monza SP2. A car so exclusive that Ferrari won't even sell you one unless they decide you're worthy. Combined value? Over $3 million, sitting in his garage in Monaco. The funniest part? Leclerc once locked himself out of his Ferrari in Monaco and had to ask fans to help him get back in. Imagine spending millions on cars and then not being able to get into them. It's like buying a mansion and forgetting where you put the keys. But the real cherry on top is that Leclerc lives in Monaco, a place so small you can walk across the entire country in about an hour. These multi-million-dollar supercars rarely get to hit third gear before he's crossed the border into France. It's like buying an Olympic swimming pool for your bathtub. If you think these purchases are outrageous, wait until you see number 1 on this list. It's so ridiculous that I actually had to verify it with 3 different sources. Make sure you stick around and hit subscribe so you don't miss our weekly deep dives into the craziest parts of F1. Number 8. Lando Norris's gaming simulator. At number 8, we have Lando Norris and his gaming setup that would make most tech billionaires jealous. While most of us might splurge on a nice gaming chair or a decent monitor, Lando went full Silicon Valley with a simulator that cost over $100,000. We're talking multiple curved 8K monitors, hydraulic racing seats that physically move with the game, custom-built PCs with more computing power than NASA used to land on the moon, and a fiber optic internet connection that could download the entire internet in about 12 seconds. The most ridiculous part? He uses this six-figure setup to play games where he pretends to be an F1 driver, which is literally his day job. It's like a chef coming home and playing Cooking Mama on a gold-plated PlayStation. When asked why he needed such an elaborate setup, Norris simply said, "It helps me practice." Practice what, Lando? Spending money. Number 7. Sebastian Vettel's Swiss estate. Lucky number 7 on our list is Sebastian Vettel's Swiss estate, which is less a home and more a small country. Vettel, who's famously private, dropped around $7 million on this property in Thurgau, Switzerland. The estate features its own private lake, a custom-built garage for his car collection that's bigger than most shopping malls, and, get this, its own forest. Not a garden with some trees, an actual forest that he owns. The property is so large that Vettel reportedly uses a golf cart to get from his front door to his mailbox. And in true Vettel fashion, he's installed a massive composting system and solar panels across the property, because even when spending millions, he's still thinking about the environment. The funniest part? Despite owning this massive estate, Vettel is known for riding a bicycle to race weekends when possible. It's like owning a private jet, but still taking the bus to work. Number 6. Fernando Alonso's Gulfstream G200. Flying into the number 6 spot is Fernando Alonso's private jet, a Gulfstream G200 worth about $22 million. Now, private jets aren't uncommon among F1 drivers, but what makes Alonso's purchase particularly outrageous is that he bought it primarily to fly his cats around Europe. That's right, Alonso spent $22 million on a private jet that's essentially a very expensive cat carrier. His two cats, Snowflake and Luna, apparently don't do well with commercial travel. So Alonso decided the only reasonable solution was to buy a jet that costs more than the GDP of some small island nations. The G200 can fly at 45,000 feet and has a range of over 3,800 miles, meaning Alonso's cats can travel from Madrid to Moscow without having to make a single stop. The interior is customized with leather seats, gold fixtures, and I'm not making this up, a special area just for the cats complete with custom beds. When asked about this purchase, Alonso simply said, "My cats are part of my family." Well, Fernando, most people buy their family members Christmas presents, not aircraft that could shuttle the entire Spanish football team around the world. Number 5. Lewis Hamilton's Manhattan penthouse. Halfway through our list at number 5 is Lewis Hamilton's Manhattan penthouse, which he bought for $44 million in 2019 and then sold without ever living in it. That's right, Hamilton dropped more money than most people will see in 10 lifetimes on an apartment, then basically forgot he owned it. The penthouse was in a building designed by Zaha Hadid and featured over 6,500 square feet of living space, a private outdoor area bigger than most New Yorkers' entire apartments, and floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the Hudson River. The most outrageous part: Hamilton reportedly never spent a single night there. He bought it, had it furnished, and then decided he didn't like it. It's like buying a Rolex, wearing it once, and then throwing it in a drawer, except the Rolex costs as much as a small country. Hamilton eventually sold the penthouse for $40 million, casually taking a $4 million loss that would financially ruin most people, but for him was basically just a rounding error in his bank account. Number 4. Kimi Räikkönen's ice cream truck. Sliding into 4th place is Kimi Räikkönen's ice cream truck, which might be the most on-brand purchase in F1 history. After his famous "I was having a shit" and "leave me alone, I know what I'm doing" moments, Kimi cemented his legend by buying a fully operational ice cream truck for about $125,000. The truck isn't just for show, it's a fully functioning business that Kimi occasionally drives around Finland, serving ice cream to shocked locals who suddenly find themselves buying a 99 flake from a Formula One world champion. The best part? Kimi doesn't do this for money or publicity. He genuinely just likes ice cream and thought it would be quite nice to own a truck. It's like if Gordon Ramsay bought a hot dog stand because he fancied a sausage. When asked why he bought an ice cream truck, Räikkönen simply shrugged and said, "Why not?" Which, to be fair, is probably how most F1 drivers make their purchasing decisions. Number 3. James Hunt's extravagant parties. Taking the bronze medal at number 3 is James Hunt's legendary party budget, which wasn't a single purchase but a lifestyle so excessive it deserves its own category. Hunt, the 1976 world champion, reportedly spent over $2 million in today's money on a single 2-week party in Tokyo after winning his title. The party included renting out entire hotels, flying in cases of champagne that cost more than a family car, and, according to legend, employing 33 hostesses to keep him and his friends entertained. Hunt famously had Sex Breakfast of Champions sewn onto his racing overalls, and he lived up to that motto with a party lifestyle that would make rock stars blush. In his career, Hunt reportedly spent almost all of his racing earnings, estimated at around $40 million in today's money, on parties, alcohol, and what his friends delicately called entertainment. When he died in 1993, he had relatively little to his name, having literally partied away a fortune that would set up most families for generations. The most outrageous part? Hunt once showed up to a black tie gala at the British Embassy in Japan, wearing jeans, no shoes, and carrying a bottle of champagne, while accompanied by 2 Japanese women he'd met that day. When asked about his attire, he simply said, "I'm James Hunt," as if that explained everything. And in F1 circles, it did. Number 2. Max Verstappen's private jet lifestyle. Just missing out on the top spot at number 2 is Max Verstappen's private jet lifestyle, which is less a purchase and more an entire financial ecosystem. Verstappen owns a Dassault Falcon 900 EX worth about $25 million, but that's just the beginning. Max doesn't just fly private. He's created an entire company around his jet called Virgin Racing Limited, not to be confused with the former F1 team. This company employs pilots, maintenance crews, and staff, essentially giving Max his own private airline for the sole purpose of flying him and his friends around. The most outrageous part: Verstappen's jet burns approximately $5,000 worth of fuel per hour. That means a simple flight from Monaco to Silverstone costs about $25,000 in fuel alone, more than many people make in a year, just to avoid a 2-hour commercial flight. When asked about the environmental impact, Verstappen famously said, "Well, Formula One is not green, is it?" Which is both entirely accurate and completely missing the point in the most Max Verstappen way possible. Number 1, Jenson Button's Bugatti Veyron impulse buy. And finally, taking the checkered flag at number 1 is Jenson Button's Bugatti Veyron impulse buy, perhaps the most ridiculous single purchase in F1 history. In 2009, after winning his first race for Brawn GP, Button was so excited that he walked into a Bugatti dealership and bought a Veyron on the spot. No test drive, no negotiation, just pointed at the $1.5 million car and essentially said, "I'll take it." But here's the truly outrageous part. Button didn't even have a garage big enough for it at the time. He had to rent special storage while he renovated his house to accommodate his new impulse purchase. It's like buying a pet elephant and then realizing you live in a studio apartment. Button later admitted he barely drove the car, putting less than 2,000 miles on it in the several years he owned it. That works out to about $750 per mile, enough to take a nice vacation for the cost of driving to the grocery store and back. The cherry on top? Button sold the car a few years later for about the same price he paid for it, essentially making his outrageous impulse purchase one of the few financially sound decisions on this list. Sometimes it pays to be ridiculous. So, there you have it, the most outrageous purchases F1 drivers have made with their ridiculous salaries. From impulse buying hypercars to spending millions on private jets for their pets, these drivers aren't just fast on track, they're lightning quick at spending money too. The next time you feel guilty about splurging on a takeaway or buying those shoes you've been eyeing, just remember, somewhere out there, an F1 driver just bought their 5th mansion because they liked the bathroom tiles. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the financial insanity of Formula One, hit that subscribe button and check out our video on the most dangerous F1 tracks in history right here. Trust me, after seeing how these drivers spend money, you'll understand why they need to be paid so much. Danger money takes on a whole new meaning. Until next time, keep your spending reasonable and your speed limits legal, unless you've got an F1 contract and a few million to burn. Cheers.